Hi, everyone. This is Monica Burns. I'm back with you today on behalf of the Book Creator team to lead the third webinar in our series, the Getting Started with Book Creator series. So if you caught us for the first two live, that's fantastic. If you're joining us for number three, maybe it's your first time with us or you just caught one of the others, you can always catch up by going to Book Creator's YouTube channel where those webinars are being hosted, just like tonight's will be posted there as well. So I'm very excited to kick off with you in what will be our final of three series for getting started. We're focusing today on a topic of collaborating with peers and sharing with authentic audiences. So if you were with us the first two sessions, you know that in session one, just 3 weeks ago, we did our overview of Book Creator with some project ideas and applications for using Book Creator in your classroom. I'll share some more Book Creator stories and where you can find more information about them on the web as we go through today. Session two, just last week, we talked about supporting students with graphic organizers and templates. Some of the project ideas we'll look at today on the Book Creator blog. You'll be able to see how teachers use graphic organizers for those projects as well. And then, of course, today we're focusing on collaborating with peers and sharing with authentic audiences. So I'm really excited for today. Not only am I been working on this webinar series, but I also get to travel and visit different schools and share ways that you can use tools, use Book Creator to really create experiences for students where they're publishing for a real audience, a big audience, whether that is near or far, and of course, collaborating and working together. So we're going to talk about a lot of different ways you can collaborate with Book Creator. And so before we get started, and I'll put our big topics up for today, I'm going to put out a couple poll questions for us just to get us kind of get our wheels spinning, help me think about where you are. And then of course, for us to all kind of know where we're coming from. So the first question I want to ask you is, have you participated in a collaborative project before? And there's four choices. So have you participated in a collaborative project before? Maybe it's in collaboration with teachers at your school, in collaboration with teachers in other schools, both. Maybe not yet, but it's something you've been thinking about. So I see our numbers are coming in. We have 67% so far at the yes to both. And or I should say 67% have voted in, and we're seeing yes to both in the lead. Got almost all of us have voted at this point. I'll give you another 2 or 3 seconds to choose your answer and hit submit on your screen. So it looks like more than half of us have collaborated with some group. Maybe it's just the teachers in our school or teachers in other schools, or with the majority so far, looks like it's a yes to both. So you've had the chance to do both of those things, which is just wonderful because it's really going to set the stage for what we talk about today. The next question I want to ask you before has to do with some of the logistical items we're going to talk about in the middle of our webinar and our time together this evening. Have you combined books with Book Creator before? So have you had students each maybe create their own page or a couple pages and then combined them into one book or anthology before? So we're looking to see where you're at. Remember, this is our Getting Started webinar series, so if you haven't done it before, it's quite all right. So I'm seeing that most of your votes are in, and it looks like about 2/3 of us haven't ever done this before. So that's great because we're going to focus some time on it today. The third of us who say that you have done it before, you'll notice I'm going to share just one of a couple ways that you can go about doing this. So if you have an experience, when I start asking for people to share out, those would be great for you to share those experiences in the question box where you're kind of communicating with me today. And then the last question And this kind of goes along with some of the choices that we talked about for the collaboration question. Have you shared your students' work with authentic audiences? So have you shared their work maybe on social media, online with a global audience? Have you shared with peers, friends, and family, a little more local? Or have you not had the chance just yet to share student work with an authentic audience? So I'll give you just a few more seconds to get your votes in. So it looks like more than half of us have shared student work with an authentic audience. The majority, it seems so far, have shared work with peers, friends, and family, kind of our nearby audience, which we'll talk about. And it seems like a few of us haven't had a chance to share student work with authentic audiences yet. And a few of us have done some work with social media and sharing online. So those are going to be great things for you to add into our question box. That's your way of kind of giving me a message that I can share out with the whole group. So today in our session 3, we're going to talk about how you can collaborate with peers, so develop opportunities for students to work together, and we'll talk about a few different models for that. We'll talk about how students can share the screen, so that don't fret if you're not in a one-to-one environment. Some of the powerful things you can do with sharing screen and combining pages to make a class book or school book or a book that has pages from many different schools or classes. We'll talk about what it means to connect with an authentic audience. So putting lots of eyes on student work and student creations. And then we'll finish off by talking about how you can get this work that students have made off their device and share it near and far. So maybe just for your folks who are close by who will view these books, or maybe you'll share with a really large global audience. And so remember, when we're talking about Book Creator today, it's an open-ended creation tool. I encourage you to have your iPad open next to you as we're talking today. We'll have the opportunity to think about ways that students can create and our focus on publishing books today. And these experiences are really customizable. So as much as I might give an example in one subject area or another subject area, or share stories from different classrooms around the world, this is really something you can make your own. Thinking about what are your learning objectives, what are your big themes for the school year. So lots of ways to really make this your own. So I know I pushed this out to some of you who joined early, but I'd love for you right now in that question box, if you toggle onto your GoToWebinar control panel to the question box. And for those of you who've been with us the past 3 weeks, this shouldn't be too new to you. But I'd love for you to share something you explored with Book Creator this past week. You might be out of school already, but you're thinking about how you're going to use it next year, so you've been playing around. Maybe you're in your last few weeks of school and you've been trying out some ways to publish or share student work at the end of the year. So go ahead and share some of the things that you've done, and I'll start reading out your answers. But go ahead and take a minute to type in and share. All right, so I see that Mackenzie was giving a PD session to K-12 teachers. Was that at your school, Mackenzie, or maybe with your district? So I love what you said here about spreading the love, and that it was so well received. So hopefully these webinars have been helpful, and that those YouTube links you can share out with anyone so they can kind of catch up. And as I've been doing, I hope you all are sharing some of the great articles and stories on Book Creator's blog. It's always a great place to get ideas. Oh, and I see Kathy here has used Keynote to create templates. So wonderful. Last week, in week 2 of our Getting Started series, we talked about using Keynote as a way to make templates and upload that into Book Creator, so kids can, or students of any age, can go ahead and write on the screen, annotate, add text. That's wonderful. So Teresa said that she had students share their video regarding a class project. I'm so glad that she mentioned video, because we'll talk about different ways to share final products today, and video is just a fantastic option. And I like what you added, Mackenzie, here about saying how you know that those templates and the keynote thing will be great for your teachers in their advanced session later this summer. So that's wonderful. If you have any other stories or ways you've been using Book Creator, you can go ahead and add them in our question box. I have it open here on my screen. I'm doing double duty here of watching kind of us talking in the back there with our questions and also sharing on the big screen here. So go ahead and post anything if you have any questions as we move along, and I'm going to go ahead and jump in. So today we'll start off with the collaboration aspect of using Book Creator. That's our kind of our two-parter here, looking at collaboration and then sharing. So collaboration is so important. When you talk about, you hear people use the term soft skills as if it's maybe a little more lower level or not important. I mean, these are the skills human beings actually need outside of the classroom and talk about college and career readiness, right? So collaboration is huge. It can be embedded into your instruction throughout the content areas. So really something that is a necessary skill, transferable to all areas of our lives. There's very few things that we do that aren't collaborative in some aspect. It gives you an opportunity to create experiences with connecting students to other children who might be nearby or might be far away. So really just depends on what kind of experiences you set up, and I'll share some of both. And it gives them an opportunity to compromise, to take on roles, to be accountable to one another, because they're working towards a common goal. So collaboration is huge in all content areas of all ages. And one of the first teacher stories featured on the Book Creator blog I want to share is from a collaboration of students of a wide age range. So you can think about your students, and where they're at, and maybe there's someone right at their grade level that would be great to partner up and collaborate with. But it's also nice to think outside the box as well. And you don't have to be physically in a K-12 building, but maybe someone on the other side of the district who you're working with remotely, but then can come together for a celebration. And this is a story on the blog about two fellow Apple Distinguished educators, Jason Sand and Robin Torrey. And they had their students collaborate over Skype, really communicate a vision for a text that they were working on. Students in grade 2 were working on informational research on a coral reef. And Jason's class was able to partner with them and help create the graphics for the books that they made in Book Creator. So really powerful way to think about, we're not just working together with a class next door, but we have the opportunity to partner and really communicate goals and a vision with students who are in another part of a school, of a district, or maybe far away. Maybe everything's virtual as well. So when you're thinking about tasks where you can connect with others, that first poll question I gave you was about, have you collaborated with teachers, nearby or far? And you might have your go-to person in your building who you're always teaming up with. Maybe it's cross-curricular, maybe it's a teacher friend who's in a different grade level, but you work so well together, you have your kids partner up. If you don't have that person in your building, you might see a name pop up today or in a Book Creator chat over the summer, someone else who's really interested and excited about using a particular tool within a content area. That's someone you can connect with virtually. Have that Google Hangout with them, talk about your goals, and then introduce your students to one another, and they can create something together. So we're going to talk about, putting pages together and having students all contribute to one shared anthology as we move through. But I want you in the question box right now, below where you typed in some of the ways you've been using Book Creator the past few weeks, share one way that your students have collaborated with technology. This could be, in-house on a smaller level, sharing a screen together, or if they haven't quite yet collaborated with technology, maybe you'll just share with us an idea that you have for getting them started with working together to build those transferable skills. So take a minute or two to share one way your students have collaborated with technology in the question box. So, any ways that you work together with technology? One of my favorite things to think about, we think about how students can, log in maybe on a Google Doc and edit and work together that way. But you can also have students on a graphic organizer using a creation tool like Book Creator and say, oh, let's move this page, move forward this page, let's add this. What do you think about this color? Or I'll record my voice for this page. You record your voice for the next page. Kathy M. shared with us that she has students who create work and share their voice together. And they couldn't do that with computers, but iPads open the world for them. Well, I'm definitely a big iPad tablet advocate in K-12 and higher ed. So it's great to see that you are able to find, a use that goes beyond just some of the things we think about a tablet doing. Mackenzie shared that her students or her schools, students are using lots of Google Collaboration. And I appreciate what you said here about teachers and admin being a little weary of having students share on a global scale. And we'll talk about that and what some of the great things and some of the things to be mindful of as we move through. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Kathy B shared that her students have videoed each other for sections of Book Reader. I love that, right? Doing interviews, working together to create the media that's going to go into your final book. And Teresa said that her students are working with partners to create PowerPoints and share the work on OneDrive. I love how you added that part about your workflow. So great. Having those opportunities for partnerships is huge when you think about really building capacity for real world transferable skills. So it's great to see the different ways that it's happening already, and hopefully you'll get some inspiration for how to use Book Reader in that way as well. So when we talk about students and the collaboration, there's kind of two ways we can think about it. The first one is this idea that I always call the shared screen. So even if you're in a one-to-one environment, I taught for 2 years in a one-to-one iPad environment, my last 2 years in the classroom. And in that situation, every student had their iPad, but some days it was, take out just the even number of students, go grab your iPad. You're going to partner up with the number that's above or below you, and you're going to work together in a shared screen environment. And there's a good amount of educational research happening right now in the education technology field. And some of that just has to do just with this idea of creating and making with apps on tablets, how it elevates the talk that takes place, what students are doing as they interact, as they compromise, as they work through their expectations for what one person's going to do versus what someone else is going to do. So it becomes a very wonderful collaborative experience, even if you're just within the walls of your classroom. So if the idea that we're going to go into in a moment of thinking a little more globally with collaboration, is a little out of your comfort zone for maybe a September or October activity, and you're building up to that for the end of next school year, it's something to think about, getting kids, just within your four walls of your classroom, sharing that screen, leaning over together. And of course, that's really useful if you just have access to a handful of devices, every once in a while. So the next story I want to share, and I know in the earlier webinars I mentioned you can take a screenshot of the screen right now if you want to, or just jot down that bit.ly link at the bottom right-hand corner of the slide, because that'll take you to an overview. I'm kind of giving you just a snippet of the stories for this particular webinar. But if you want to read a little more deeply and make sure that, all that, see all the visuals that you see here and make sure you're, following along with that, there's lots of rich content on the Book Readers blogs on that part of their website. So this is a story about a global iBook. And the global iBook that's been created by Avenue School, by Kristen and her team their focus is really on a global perspective. This is one that I always share when I visit schools and I demo Book Creator and talk about it, because it's just such a fantastic story of going out onto Twitter, reaching out and having other folks from around the world, maybe you know them well, you met them once at a conference, or just a person who follows you, you both talk mutually or connect mutually over Twitter, having them all submit a different page that talks about where they live. So students from one part of our country might share their page. Students from another country might share their page. And all of these come together and can be combined into one book. And so this is a global iBook story. There's a few versions of the global iBook that the Avenue School has made, and you can hear their whole story and read about their experience with this on the Book Creator blog. But it's really fantastic, just as like call to action. Give me some pages, I'll put them together, and we'll have something fantastic to share with that world audience. So definitely combining the collaboration and the sharing piece for today. And we'll talk about putting pages together in just a second. And when you do have that collaboration, say you have every student in your class making 1 or 2 letters for an ABC book, you can share it in lots of different ways. And this is a story that's on the Book Creator blog all about Karen, who's a librarian from Florida. They used all sorts of tools like the ones we talked about over the past 2 weeks using graphic organizers. And then they finished their finished product. They uploaded it to the iBook store. Now anyone can download this. And I've done this with my students where we've created books and I've uploaded it to the iBook store, and you can track the downloads. You can say, wow, this many people from Australia downloaded our book. This many people from the United States downloaded our book. You can talk to kids about leaving comments, rating, review. And then of course, this is just something where you can send that link out and say, like, look what you made. You are a published author. So as we move through this idea of collaboration today, you might say, sharing each of my children's books on iTunes might just be a lot more than I want to bite off from a logistical standpoint. Well, you can make a collaborative book and have that one book you share in the middle, the end of the year, really giving a voice to your students and validating their experience in your class. So we're going to talk about combining student creations. And so that global iBook example was a page from dozens of different schools combined into one book. The ABC book example, each student is doing their own page and we're combining it into one book. So this, from a logistical perspective, can be done a couple different ways. Same thing with sharing. You can do it a couple different ways. I'm showing you one way today that I think is the best way to get started. But as you explore, you might find that there's something that works better with an LMS in your school, how your Wi-Fi works, or things like that. But we'll go through this piece today just so that you have a vision for what it can look like. And you'll hear me say, this is something else you can do. You could try this instead as well. So combining student creations is great. It's a wonderful way to manage your kind of first go of it with kids creating a book. They're going to work on just one page. You might have a template, so all other pages look similar, or you might just have a checklist of the things they're going to put on their page. You can do this inside your class. Maybe every student has their own iPad every day, and they make their one page and they send it to you the way we'll talk about. Maybe you have 3 iPads in your classroom, so kids are rotating in a station, making one page, and then at the end of the week, you combine them and publish it so that it can be on everyone's iPad or shared at home. So it's great for short-term projects like that too, in addition to the partner school projects like we mentioned with the global iBook example. So take a look as I go through some of these screenshots and talk through. This is one page of an ABC book. It's in the landscape mode, so you're going to want all of your pages to be the same size. So every child needs to know that they're making a page in the shape of a square, if that's what you've decided, or the shape of a rectangle, the landscape mode, if that's what you've decided. So just be mindful of that as you kind of send students off. So this is a page of the letter E on a book, an ABC book. So we have the letter E prominent. We have the sentence that describes what an ecosystem is. The image, you notice how it has the citation at the bottom. This is from a resource that I love, photosforclass.com. It lets kids search for photos. They're usually pretty good about being all kid friendly, and it automatically cites it from a Creative Commons license, which is just awesome best practice. And then it has the voice recording. So this is one page of a book. So imagine this is on one of your students' devices. They picked the letter E out of a hat, and they're in charge of making the E page in their book. So here they are back out at their home screen, and they've made the letter E. This is their one page on the one book. So if you look at the bottom of the screen, there's our plus sign, our eye inspector, and then our share button. So I'm going to toggle back so you see our plus sign, our eye, and our share button, that universal share, and that's the third one, and that's what we're going to hit. So we'll talk more about the reasons you would choose these different options for sharing before we wrap up today. But that first one, export as EPUB, is the one you're going to want your students to do if you're going to combine their books and make one interactive book together. So you're going to have them tap on their device, export as EPUB. And so you might be thinking to yourself, okay, how are all my third graders going to know exactly what to do and follow along with this? You'll have to develop a workflow in your classroom. You might say, okay, everyone's finished, everyone tap this. Do I have my 3 experts walking around the room who know Book Creator like the back of their hand? Are they peeking in to make sure their fellow students have it, right? Or you might just export a whole bunch on your one iPad that students are sharing. It just depends on your workflow, but you have your one book with one page, and then we share and we export as an EPUB. And this is what pops up. A few different options to share as an EPUB. So we're going to talk about the email option today. There are other ways to do this. AirDrop is a great way. Kids can tap on the AirDrop and send it to the teacher iPad. They'll just have to know that the teacher iPad's going to pop up. It's a very popular way to do this, very feasible if your Wi-Fi is good and everyone's Bluetooth is on and all of that. So it's a very popular way to do it, but there are other ways. In the bottom, you can open it in another kind of shared app. Maybe you're going to save them to Dropbox, and it's all going to go in a Dropbox folder or Google Drive, but we're going to tap on that mail button. And so this means that your device has to be set up with an email account so you can mail and push out off of your device. So you're going to mail that book as an EPUB. And so I would suggest that you have your students maybe put their name in the subject line, the letter that they chose. If you are having students email you regularly, you probably have a workflow that you always have them put their name or their student number or something in the subject line. So have them send it to you because you want all of these to go to your inbox, because the idea is that you're going to open up the mail on your iPad. This is just kind of a funny screenshot because I'm on a white slide here, but just so you can see that this is just in portrait mode, not landscape. So you are going to get this email on your device, and your device must have Book Creator loaded on it, because you are going to open up all these pages. So each student email you're going to open up, and you're going to save their page, and it'll go straight into Book Creator. So let's look at that. So I'm opening up the email. That letter E was just sent to me. If I hit that tap to download, right, it downloads for me just like if you were downloading a picture or a PDF file, and now it comes through as an EPUB. And so when I tap on that EPUB, it gives me some options. You can see I can AirDrop it. Monica's MacBook pops right up. I can copy it to iBooks if I want it to live in my iBooks library. And you can see that there's 4 options and then a little orange cutoff. I have my iBooks, Notes, Explain Everything, Nook. This is just prompting you with apps that could support your EPUB file if you had your iPad, if they're loaded on your iPad. So you might not see Explain Everything if you don't have Explain Everything on your iPad, for example. But if I swipe through, you'll see Book Creator now becomes an option. So you're going to tap on this in your email and open it up in Book Creator. And when you do that, it will pop up, and you see it's kind of hidden for me over here on the right-hand side. This is that letter E. So that's the way you're going to get your students' work onto your teacher device, because you are going to organize all of their pages into one book. So when you've done that, it's important that you make a cover. So you have a cover. You could always fix it later. Like mine's not super pretty here, but I have our ABC book as the cover. And so this is going to be the main book and I'm going to add the other pages to it. So when I do this, I'm looking at my ABC book, and now I go to my plus sign, the same place I would go to make a new book. I'm not going to make a new book. I'm not going to copy or duplicate this book, but I'm going to combine books. So now I've loaded these pages into my library, all the letters of the alphabet into my library, and then I'm hitting combine books. And so I'm going to tap on the letter T. I'm going to tap on the letter E, and I'm going to add those to my book. Hopefully you would have all the letters come through at one point. It doesn't matter what order the students send you the letters in, because when you open up your ABC book, you've now added those pages, you've combined them all together. If you tap the top of your screen where it says pages, this is what you'll see. It kind of reminds me of a PowerPoint or Keynote slide deck where you have all your slides. Now, I only have the letter E and the letter T. Hopefully more will be added. But if I tap on one of these, and it gets what I call, it gets the wiggles, which is like when your apps are wiggling on your screen so you can move it in one direction or another. Then you can put the letters of the alphabet in order or the page numbers in order. So it just depends on the sequence. If you are having students do something that like should be in a sequence, you probably want them to put their page number at the bottom of their page before they send it to you, so you know which sequence to put it in. Obviously, if you're doing an ABC book, it'll be pretty easy to tell just by singing the quick ABC song that you have them all in the correct order with your knowledge of the alphabet. So that shouldn't be an issue, but that is what you do to get them all in order. So now you see if I go back out to my book, I can tap in each direction. This will take me back to my cover or the letter that comes before, and the other piece will take me to the other arrow will take me to the letter T or whatever comes next. Right now I only have 3 pages, my cover, the letter E, and T. So I want you to open up your piece together, your iPad, and maybe play around with combining a page or two. So you can address this question as you play around, but I want you to open it up and see if you can combine a book. Just to get a feel for it. And as you play around with it, type in any questions you have about the process I just went through in the question box. But also, if maybe you don't have your iPad next to you, or you're just kind of got your wheels spinning here, you can type in a way you could imagine your students collaborating and working together with a book creator. I love what Mackenzie shared just right now, that she would love to have students combine story parts. Maybe one student starts the fairy tale and another finishes it. What a wonderful thing, right? Maybe you have a whole bunch of prompts that pop out, like sentence 1, sentence 2, sentence 3. You could even have students do just the illustration for that page and then put all the stories together. I love it. So keep typing in some more ways you could imagine having students collaborate with Book Creator. Or if you have questions about this process, type it in now so I can take you through it. I love what Kathy M just shared, that they have young adults create parts of a project away from school, and then when they come together, they airdrop them to combine the books. Very cool. And airdrop's a great way to do it. You saw that as an option as well, right? So it's just kind of choose your workflow that works best. You might have kids push it out to you another way. So lots of options for having them collaborate. So Mackenzie said, do you know if they share it to Google Drive, if they can download it from there and continue if we don't want them to email? So remember, when their students are sharing it, they're sharing it as an EPUB file. So you'll want to keep them in the Book Creator ecosystem for editing that. Like what they could do is they could send it to Google Drive and like have it live or sit in Google Drive, but then they'd have to open it back up into Book Creator to make changes to it. That's what I would encourage you to do if you're thinking about that as part of your workflow. So you could have students like make a book and save it as an EPUB in the beginning of the school year, and then revisit it, open it up again at the end of the year and add to it. So definitely an option. Any other questions or things that you're thinking about for ways to collaborate? You can go ahead and type them in, but I am going to start moving us forward so we can talk a little bit about authentic audience and sharing them. But keep that question box open if you have something to add as well. So when we talk about authentic audiences, this is the real people who are going to view, experience, interact with your children's work. And what I love about Book Creator is students aren't giving their audience like a passive experience. They're giving them an active experience to interact with. They have to swipe from one page to another. They can tap on the audio. They can watch a video pop up. So really something that is special. And so when you are establishing an authentic audience for your class, you want to know right away and you want to communicate with your students. Who are they going to be sharing their books with? What is it they're going to share? When is the celebration going to take place? Or when are they going to Skype and read each other's stories with that class a few time zones away? And why are they doing this? Is there a purpose for sharing their stories, for teaching someone how to do something, to sharing information about research or something that they've done? So a great opportunity for real world connections, but it's important to have a clear plan, right? How are we going to connect with these folks? Do my students all have their photo permissions in place that they're allowed to share their student work and to Skype with the class far away? And have I thought about the way that I'm going to kind of keep that follow-up happening with the audience to make sure that that interaction is happening and really special? And so there's two great stories on the Book Creator blog, in addition to lots of other great stories. The first one is from a fellow Apple Distinguished Educator, Rabbi Michael Cohen, who has students create expert books. So this is something where they are showcasing and showing off what they do really well. So it's really an awesome opportunity for kids to become empowered, knowing that their audience is going to be learning something from what they're going to do. So you can read more about this particular story on the Book Creator blog, but really a great example of authentic audience. And then fellow Book Creator ambassador and Apple Distinguished Educator John Smith has a really great post, and I have this as a long URL instead of the bit.ly for you, but I know you can find it on redjumper.net Book Creator site. A really awesome opportunity for students to create for a huge global audience. And this post in particular will show you, that process. We'll give a shout out to some of the other educators he collaborated with for this project. Really a special experience and something worth exploring. So if you're saying to yourself, like, who is going to be the audience for my students, right? I don't have a friend who teaches far away. I have, friends who are here in my school. Well, think outside the box. Maybe you're going to go and bring those iPads on a field trip to a local nursing home, and students are going to swipe through and show these books that they've made to the folks living there. Maybe you're going to have them go to a local animal shelter and sit and read their books to some of the puppies that are sitting there, right? Maybe you're going to have students publish their book onto a blog, and then you can start sharing it on the PTA Facebook, or ask your superintendent to tweet it out or announce it at a school board meeting. So, really get creative with that. And so we're going to come back to this ABC book and back to those sharing options. So before we said, if you're publishing as an EPUB, that's what you want to do if you're going to have the pages pushed together into one collaborative book. Publishing it as an EPUB is also good if you want to save it to your iBooks library, if you want to come back to it and edit it later, right? If you want to upload it eventually to the iBook store using iTunes Producer, which is a great option. It's the option that we saw Karen use with her book that was published to the iBook store, so anyone could download. If you export as a PDF or a video, you have a few other options, but when you hit that export as EPUB button, you can save it, open it up in apps that you already have on your device. So for example, I have Seesaw on my device. I can upload it to Seesaw and share it out with everyone in a Seesaw class. I can send it to iTunes. I can open it in another app. I can mail it out the way you saw me do. So a couple options there. If I export it as a PDF, remember a PDF is like printing something out. You're going to stop any of the recordings, stop any of the narration. It's going to be flat. So this is nice if you're looking to print some pages and maybe staple it up to a bulletin board. If you want to have something really tangible for kids to bring to, say, a middle school interview or a special event. So really, this is about printing it and having it flat. So a couple options when you do that, it'll ask you if you want it to be a single page or you want it to be page side by side on a page. So some options for that as well. And then if you export as a video, exporting as a video is terrific if you are kind of not sure how people are going to interact with the book. You want them to view it, but you're just not sure if they have a device that's going to be EPUB friendly, and you know that you have videos and audio in there, and so you don't want it to be a flat PDF. You can export it as a video, and it'll give you all those same options. Are you going to airdrop it to someone, publish it to Seesaw? But if you look at the bottom left option, save video, this is what's going to let you download it to the photos area of your camera roll, as we used to call it. So then if you do that, you have even more options because you can take everyone's book and organize it in iMovie and combine it that way. So this is great if you want to upload a book to a blog or a website, or you want to email it out or connect it to a QR code. So a couple different options there, but you just have to pick which one works best for you. So I want you to open up Book Creator on your iPad. You've been making some books along with me at home, and maybe you have some on there that your students have made or something you played around with. And I want you to try one of the share options. Either try sharing it as an EPUB and mailing it the way I demoed, share it as a PDF and pick your layout, or share it as a video. And as you do that, I'll check in on some other questions that might have popped up. So as you're doing that, Mackenzie asked, just kind of clarifying that Google Drive question from before, if they remove it from Book Creator, put it in Google Drive because they have the free version and they're looking to make more than one. You can save your EPUBs that way, but you may struggle to import that one back in if you're using the free version. I mean, I think the free version is great if you're doing, every once in a while, or just that kind of one activity a year. But I know, I came from a free app classroom. Now there's so many great options that are both, free and paid. The kind of market is different and the logistical piece is different. I don't usually go to schools and advocate purchasing lots of apps, but I have my top 3 or 4 that I mentioned, and Book Creator is right up there at the top, just because you can use it across the curriculum in lots of different contexts, and they have volume purchasing. So I definitely understand the question. You'll probably want to try that out with the Google Drive workflow, but I don't want to promise you that you'll be able to bring it back in. Oh, so I see Cindy mentioned that she had a book that she had exported to iBooks and then it disappeared from her Book Creator and wants to know if she can bring it back in. I believe that you're pretty much stuck if your EPUB file, when it's in iBooks. I'm not sure if you can export it out as a file. That might be something you need to do with connecting your iPad, hardwire it to your Mac computer and pull it off via iTunes. I'd have to think a little bit about that workflow, but feel free, Cindy, to send me an email so I can follow up with that. I want to make sure we get that answer to your question. All right. So if you've been sharing your book and trying to figure out the best way to do that, you can go ahead and play around with that as well. In the question box, if you haven't thought about it already, I love for you to think about one kind of audience you might have for your students. I know we're just have another minute here as we wrap up, but if you have an audience that you think would be great for your students, you're kind of thinking, ooh, well, we can share our books with these folks. Go ahead and put that into the question box, some audience ideas that you have. And as we wrap up today, I want to make sure that you have the link to the survey, and I think we'll be able to email this out to all the participants as well. This is our first go of it with doing our 3-part Getting Started series. So it's really useful. If you have feedback, you have ideas, things that you would love to have heard about, things that you were really excited to learn about this time, that you were glad that we mentioned. So we would really appreciate it if you went to bookcreator.com/feedback to give your feedback. Even if you just attended 1 or 2 of these, it will be really helpful for us to get a vision of what it is that you're interested in. And so I really want to wrap up today. And of course, I'll stay on for a moment or two to answer some more questions. And you all have my email at the bottom there. But thank you so much for your dedication, your tuning in, whether it's the evening on the East Coast, afternoon on the West Coast, or somewhere in between or outside that window. The work that you do creating opportunities for students to make something that demonstrates their understanding and is shareable is so important. And it's just so fantastic to connect with educators who also feel passionate about a tool that can be used to really transform the experience your students have as creators of content, and giving them the ability to demonstrate their understanding across the content areas. So I hope this will not be a big goodbye, but that you'll join us during our monthly webinar series. You can go to bookcreator.com to learn more about that upcoming webinars. And of course, my email down there at the bottom, if you have other questions that we weren't able to address tonight, that's where you can reach me. So thank you so much for joining us over the last 3 sessions, and I hope that you have a wonderful evening.